Imagine waking up in complete darkness. Your hands are tied, the air is cold, and the last thing you remember is someone cutting your tent open while you slept. This isn't a movie. This really happened. I'll be sure to subscribe for more real crime stories, keeping you current on all things criminal. This is Crime Hall. On the evening of August 11th, 2012, the San Juan Mountains of Colorado glowed under a clear summer sky. The air smelled of pine and damp earth. Campfires flickered across Red Elk Campground, where families, hikers, and couples settled in for the night, laughing, cooking, and believing they were safe. At the far edge of the campground, two sisters sat close to a small fire. Emily Carter, 18, had just graduated high school. Her older sister, Rachel Carter, 24, was a graduate student studying environmental science. They roasted marshmallows slowly, letting the silence stretch between them. "This is the last time we'll do this for a while," Emily said quietly. Rachel smiled, but there was sadness behind it. "I know, college changes everything." Camping had been their tradition, started by their father years earlier. After his death from a sudden heart condition, the sisters promised each other they would never let it end. This trip was supposed to be simple. 3 nights, no phones, no distractions, just the mountains. Their mother, Laura Carter, had begged them not to go alone. "Take a satellite phone," she said. "Carry something for protection." Rachel compromised. She bought bear spray and a small emergency whistle. "There will be rangers," she reassured her mother. "Other campers will be fine." By 9:30 p.m., nearby campers, Mark and Diane Fowler, a retired couple from New Mexico, watched the sisters douse their fire. "Sleep well," Rachel called out. "You too," Mark replied. Those were the last confirmed words anyone ever heard from them. The next morning, August 12th, Diane woke just after sunrise. Something felt wrong. The Carter sisters' tent was still standing, but the entrance flap hung open. At first, Diane assumed they had gone to the restroom or down to the creek. But minutes turned into an hour. By 8:15 a.m., Mark walked over. What he saw made his stomach drop. The tent had been slashed from the side, a long vertical cut. From the inside, clothes lay scattered. A flashlight rested in the dirt. One shoe? Their SUV was still parked nearby, but Emily and Rachel were gone. Mark ran. By 8:40 a.m., park rangers arrived. Within minutes, the scene was sealed. Ranger Lucas Myers immediately knew this wasn't a simple disappearance. Their phones were inside the tent. Their wallets? Their keys. Nothing made sense. Tracking dogs picked up a scent leading southwest, deep into the forest, until it suddenly stopped near an abandoned logging road, which meant only one thing. They had been put into a vehicle. Laura Carter collapsed when the sheriff called. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply went silent. Her brother drove her 6 hours through the night to the mountains. She arrived at the campground just as helicopters began circling overhead. For days, search teams combed every inch of forest. Dogs, drones, divers. Nothing. No blood, no witnesses, no screams reported. Emily woke up choking. Her mouth tasted like metal. Her head throbbed violently, as if it had been split open. When she tried to move, sharp pain shot through her wrists. She screamed. The sound echoed, but it didn't travel far. Darkness swallowed it. Rachel was awake. She didn't know how long. Minutes? Hours? Days? Her hands were bound behind her back with thick plastic restraints, cutting into her skin. Her ankles were tied together. The ground beneath her was cold stone, damp enough that her clothes clung to her body. "Emily?" she whispered, her voice cracking. A faint groan answered. Emily lay a few feet away, slumped against a rock wall, her head bleeding where she had been struck. They weren't outside. They weren't in a cabin. They were underground. The smell was the first thing Rachel truly noticed. Stale air, wet stone, rust. Somewhere in the darkness, water dripped in a steady rhythm, slow, relentless, like a clock counting down something terrible. Rachel pulled against her restraints until her wrists burned. Nothing moved. "Em," she whispered again. "Stay awake." Emily stirred, her eyes fluttering open. "Rach, where are we?" Rachel swallowed hard. "I don't know." But deep down, she already understood. They had been taken, dragged, hidden, and no one could hear them. Memory returned in broken pieces. Rachel remembered waking to a tearing sound, fabric ripping. Before she could scream, a shadow filled the tent. A man, tall, broad, his face hidden behind a dark hood. A knife in one hand, a gun in the other. "One sound," he whispered calmly, "and she dies first." Emily had screamed anyway. The man struck her without hesitation. Rachel remembered blood, panic, being forced barefoot through the forest, branches cutting her feet, cold earth beneath her knees when she fell. Then, the vehicle, the ride, and finally darkness swallowing everything. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate. Rachel tensed as a beam of yellow light cut through the cave. The man stepped into view. He wore a headlamp, a heavy jacket, work boots coated in clay. His face was still hidden, this time by a cloth mask pulled tight across his nose and mouth. He crouched in front of them. "You are safe," he said softly. Rachel flinched. "You are chosen." Emily whimpered. The man ignored her. "This place," he continued, spreading his arms, "is where people are purified, where sin is burned away." Rachel shook her head. "Please, we won't tell anyone, just let us go." The man stood abruptly. "No," he said. "You belong here now." The man returned every 2 or 3 days, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. Time stopped meaning anything. He brought canned food, water in plastic bottles, sometimes a blanket, sometimes punishment. He made them pray out loud, kneeling on stone. If Emily cried too loudly, he struck Rachel. If Rachel protested, Emily paid for it. That was how he controlled them. He spoke of God, of visions, of voices that told him the sisters were tests, sent to measure his faith. "You suffer," he explained calmly, "so your souls can be clean." The cave became their entire universe. Cold seeped into their bones. Hunger hollowed their faces. Emily stopped speaking much after the first week. Rachel whispered stories to her, about home, about school, about the future, just to keep her anchored to something human. Rachel noticed the pipe on the cave floor after several days. Rusty, thick, driven deep into stone. Their restraints were looped around it with steel cable. Escape was impossible, but Rachel noticed something else. The pipe rang when struck, a dull metallic echo. One night when the man didn't return, Rachel began tapping. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. She didn't know Morse code exactly, but she knew SOS. She tapped until her hands bled. Then she waited. By the 3rd week, Emily could barely sit upright. Her lips were cracked, her eyes sunken. "Rach," she whispered once, barely audible. "I'm scared I won't wake up." Rachel pressed her forehead to her sister's. "You will," she lied. "Someone's coming, I know it." She didn't know, but hope was the only thing keeping them alive. Above them, search efforts had nearly ended. But deep underground, Rachel tapped again, and this time, she heard something. Not footsteps, not dripping water. Voices, faint, human. At first, Rachel thought she was hallucinating. The voices were distant, muffled by layers of rock and time. She pressed her ear against the stone wall, barely daring to breathe. There it was again. Metal clinking, boots scraping rock, human movement. Her heart slammed against her ribs. She struck the pipe with everything she had left. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Again. Again. Above them, deep inside the Red Elk cave system, a small team of geological researchers was mapping unexplored passages. Dr. Alan Brewer, 54, had spent most of his life underground. He knew caves the way sailors knew the sea. With him were 3 graduate students, Nina Alvarez, Ethan Brooks, and Caleb Moore, all experienced, all careful. The cave they were in wasn't considered dangerous, shallow, boring, dead, according to old maps, until Nina stopped walking. "Did you hear that?" They froze. At first, nothing. Then, a knock, metal on metal, rhythmic, intentional. Alan's blood went cold. "That's not rockfall," he said quietly. The sound came again. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. "Oh my God," Nina whispered. "That's a signal." They moved quickly but carefully, squeezing through a narrow passage that wasn't marked on any official map. The knocking grew louder, then desperate. When they reached the chamber, their headlamps swept across something none of them were prepared for. 2 figures. Human, barely. Rachel sat upright, her eyes wide and unblinking, skin stretched tight over bone. Emily lay slumped beside her, unmoving. Their wrists were bound to a pipe driven into the cave floor. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Rachel's lips moved. "Help!" she whispered. Nina dropped to her knees, sobbing. Ethan fumbled for the radio, his hands shaking. "We found people," he said. 2 women. "They're alive." Static crackled. "We need emergency cave rescue immediately." Dr. Brewer knelt beside Rachel. "What are your names?" "Emily and Rachel Carter." The name hit him like a punch. Everyone had seen their faces. Everyone had assumed they were dead. Emily was barely breathing. Her pulse was weak. They had no cutting tool strong enough for the steel cable. All they could do was stay with them. Keep them talking. Keep them alive. Within an hour, the cave filled with controlled chaos. Rescue specialists descended with medical gear and hydraulic cutters. The cable snapped open. Rachel collapsed, crying for the first time in weeks. They lifted Emily onto a stretcher, oxygen pressed to her face. The ascent was slow, painful. Every narrow passage felt like it might take their lives all over again. At the surface, helicopters circled. When Laura Carter saw the stretchers emerge from the cave mouth, her legs gave out. She screamed her daughter's names over and over, her voice breaking the silence of the forest. They were rushed to the hospital, alive, but barely. The cave became a crime scene. Investigators found empty food cans, water bottles, cigarette butts, shoe prints in wet clay, large boots, men's boots, and most chilling of all, photographs left behind. Proof. Someone had been there. Someone who believed he was untouchable. But he had made one mistake. He had left a trail. While Emily and Rachel fought for their lives in the ICU, detectives worked around the clock. The cave was no longer just a place of horror. It was a map, and it pointed directly to one man. Forensic teams cataloged everything. Shoe impressions measured size 44-45, deep and clear in the damp clay. The tread pattern was distinctive, popular with hikers, but not common. DNA from a cigarette butt was rushed to the lab. So were stray hairs found tangled in the blanket left behind. Then came the photographs. Grainy, dark, taken with an old digital camera. They showed Emily and Rachel chained, bruised, crying. The timestamp metadata revealed something crucial. The man had been returning regularly. Confident, unafraid. 3 days after the rescue, Rachel was strong enough to speak. Detective Maya Thornton sat beside her hospital bed, recorder running. Rachel described the man in chilling detail. Tall, strong, southern accent, a cross tattoo on his right forearm. He said we were sent to him, Rachel whispered. That we were angels, tests of his faith. Emily, when she regained consciousness, added something more. He took pictures, she said. And he talked to someone, like God was standing right there. One phrase stood out. He said the cave was our church. Detectives searched records for men living within, 100-kilometer radius of the cave. They focused on one profile: religious obsession, history of instability, isolated living conditions. One name matched everything: Caleb Rourke, 48, former evangelical preacher, defrocked after repeated complaints of extreme practices and disturbing sermons. Rourke had vanished from public life years earlier. He now lived alone in a remote cabin bordering federal land. No family, no close friends, no alibi. A warrant was signed. At dawn, law enforcement surrounded the cabin. Police, come out with your hands up. Silence. They breached the door. It was empty, but inside they found the truth. A notebook, thick, handwritten, page after page of rambling religious text, and entries that made seasoned detectives go pale. August 11th, 2 souls delivered. They resisted. Resistance is sin. August 15th, the younger is weak. The older prays better. August 20th, God says they must remain until purified. They also found a digital camera, hiking boots matching the cave prints, a map with the cave marked, torn clothing belonging to the sisters. Caleb Rourke had not just planned the crime, he had documented it. Rourke vanished into the wilderness. The FBI joined the search. Roadblocks, helicopters, national alerts. For 4 days, sightings poured in. Everyone false, until a hunter found something. 30 kilometers from the cabin, on a remote cliffside trail, a truck was discovered. Abandoned cold. A kilometer away, at the base of the ravine, they found a body. Caleb Rourke, dead, broken neck. Beside him, a knife and a note. Forgive me, I failed the test. Whether he jumped or fell was never determined, but he would never hurt anyone again. When the news broke that Caleb Rourke was dead, reactions were conflicted. Relief, anger, a hollow sense of justice unfinished. For Emily and Rachel Carter, it meant one thing above all else. The man who owned their nightmares would never come back. But the damage he left behind didn't disappear with him. The sisters spent nearly 2 months in the hospital. Doctors documented the injuries quietly, clinically, but the truth was brutal. Severe dehydration, acute malnutrition, infections that could have killed them if help had come days later. Emily weighed just 39 kilograms when she was admitted. Rachel wasn't much better. But physical wounds heal faster than invisible ones. Rachel couldn't sleep with doors closed. Every creak sounded like footsteps. Every shadow felt alive. Emily startled at sudden noises. She avoided silence. It reminded her too much of the cave. Therapists warned them. Recovery would take years. And even then, parts of the experience would never fully let go. But they refused to let the cave be the end of their story. 2 years later, Rachel returned to university. She changed her focus, studying trauma recovery and crisis intervention. Emily followed a similar path, drawn towards psychology. They didn't want revenge. They wanted meaning. Together, they began speaking publicly, carefully at first, then with growing confidence. They talked about survival, about fear, about how hope can exist even when the world goes dark. The cave was sealed permanently. Concrete poured into the entrance, a small marker placed above it. No names, no details, just words. Hope was stronger here. Their mother, Laura, established a foundation to support families of missing persons, helping fund searches and trauma counseling. She said it was the only way to survive her own pain. Years later, Emily said something that stayed with everyone who heard it. We didn't survive because we were strong. We survived because we refused to give up on each other. The mountains still stand. The cave still exists beneath them. But it no longer holds their story. They do.